In this video, I'll be exploring Elmore Leonard's 10 rules of writing. Elmore Leonard, for those of you who are unaware, was an American novelist, short story writer and screenwriter who started his career by writing westerns in the 1950s, before then going on to specialise in crime fiction and suspense thrillers until his death in 2013. Regarded by many as one of the best and most prominent crime writers in American literature, perhaps in the same league as the likes of Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler, James M. Cain and Jim Thompson, he experienced considerable success during his lifetime, with 26 of his novels and short stories having been adapted for the screen. Noteworthy examples of novels that have been adapted include Get Shorty, which was made in 1995, Out of Sight, adapted by Steven Soderbergh in 1998, as well as Rum Punch, which became Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown in 1997. Moreover, his short story 3:10 to Yuma has seen 2 major film adaptations so far, both in 1957 and 2007. Lauded by critics and fans for his strong, punchy dialogue as well as gritty realism, Leonard sometimes took liberties with grammar in order to speed the story along. And it was in his essay entitled Elmore Leonard's 10 Rules of Writing that he wrote, "My most important rule is one that sums up the 10. If it sounds like writing, I rewrite it." Here, I will focus on the 10 rules of writing by which Elmore Leonard swore throughout his long and esteemed career. Number 1. Never open a book with weather. If it's only to create atmosphere and not a character's reaction to the weather, you don't want to go on too long. The reader is apt to leaf ahead looking for people. There are exceptions. If you happen to be Barry Lopez, who has more ways to describe ice and snow than an Eskimo, you can do all the weather reporting you want. While I'm sure many writers would disagree with this one, and that describing the weather can set the tone and atmosphere of a scene or story, clearly this rubbed Elmore Leonard the wrong way. A man whose main focus was that of characters, their personalities, and the predicaments in which they find themselves. Number 2. Avoid prologues. They can be annoying, especially a prologue following an introduction that comes after a foreword, but these are ordinarily found in non-fiction. A prologue in a novel is backstory, and you can drop it in anywhere you want. There is a prologue in John Steinbeck's Sweet Thursday, but it's okay because a character in the book makes the point of what my rules are all about. I like a lot of talk in a book, and I don't like to have nobody tell me what the guy that's talking looks like. I want to figure out what he looks like from the way he talks, figure out what the guy's thinking from what he says. I like some description, but not too much of that. Sometimes I want a book to break loose with a bunch of hoopty-doodle. Spin up some pretty words maybe, or sing a little song with language. That's nice, but I wish it was set aside so I don't have to read it. I don't want hoopty-doodle to get mixed up with the story. Elmore Leonard hated backstory and seemingly hated prologues more so, believing that while it's fine to drip feed some details regarding a character's background or past events, it's much more effective having a reader fill in the gaps through how a person talks, how they act, etc. Number 3. Never use a verb other than said to carry dialogue. The line of dialogue belongs to the character. The verb is the writer sticking his nose in, but said is far less intrusive than grumbled, gasped, cautioned, lied. I once noticed Mary McCarthy ending a line of dialogue with "she asseverated" and had to stop reading to get the dictionary. His take on this one is interesting. He thinks that a character lays claim to a line of dialogue, and that a writer is simply interfering by modifying how a character delivers his or her line. According to him, as a writer you should get out the way of your characters as much as possible, allowing them to speak and act freely without specifying how exactly they are delivering dialogue. Number 4. Never use an adverb to modify the verb said. He admonished gravely. To use an adverb this way, or almost any way, is a mortal sin. The writer is now exposing himself in earnest, using a word that distracts and can interrupt the rhythm of the exchange. I have a character of one of my books tell how she used to write historical romances full of rape and adverbs. This is one that I've read many writers mention in the past, and with which I certainly agree. The idea being that the reader should be able to judge how a person is feeling or saying something by how they are acting in the scene and by the context in which the actions are taking place. Number 5. Keep your exclamation points under control. You are allowed no more than 2 or 3 per 100,000 words of prose. If you have the knack of playing with exclaimers the way Tom Wolfe does, you can throw them in by the handful. This is quite simple and is one that I like. I personally think exclamation points are lazy and ugly. Let the mood dictate the severity or seriousness of a situation. Give your readers a little more credit. Number 6. Never use the words suddenly or all hell broke loose. This rule doesn't require an explanation. I have noticed that writers who use suddenly tend to exercise less control in the application of exclamation points. Akin to his opinion on exclamation marks, Elmore Leonard also saw laziness in the use of both idioms and everyday phrases, as well as adverbs that indicate the level of urgency within a scene. Any writer worth his salt will tell you that verbs are way more effective than adverbs in creating tension and driving a plot forward. Number 7. Use regional dialect, patois, sparingly. Once you start spelling words in dialogue phonetically and loading the page with apostrophes, you won't be able to stop. Notice the way Annie Proulx captures the flavour of Wyoming voices in her book of short stories Close Range. I'm not necessarily against this one, but I do feel that too much regional dialect can make for a less enjoyable and more laborious read, which for me is not what I'm hoping for when starting a novel. Though as I am saying this, I've just realised that A Clockwork Orange is one of my favourite books, so perhaps I am drawn to a tougher read. Number 8. Avoid detailed descriptions of characters. In Ernest Hemingway's Hills Like White Elephants, what did the American and the girl with him look like? She had taken off her hat and put it on the table. That's the only reference to a physical description in the story, and yet we see the couple and know them by their tones of voices, with not one adverb in sight. I guess that this point will always be a contentious one, for while there are those who believe in rich, tight, descriptive prose, there will always be those who feel that less is, or can be more, in writing. I will let you decide as to this one. Number 9. Don't go into great detail describing places and things, unless you're Margaret Atwood and can paint scenes with language or write landscapes in the style of Jim Harrison. But even if you're good at it, you don't want descriptions that bring the action, the flow of the story, to a standstill. This is similar to point 8, in that Elmore Leonard believes in driving the plot forward with action and snappy dialogue, and that too much description simply hinders the progress of the story. Don't get caught up with describing each and every aspect of your scene. Leave room for imagination within your reader. Number 10. Try to leave out the part that readers tend to skip. A rule that came to mind in 1983. Think of what you skip reading a novel. Thick paragraphs of prose you can see have too many words in them. What the writer is doing, he's writing, perpetrating hoop-de-doodle, perhaps taking another shot at the weather, or has gone into the character's head, and the reader either knows what the guy's thinking or doesn't care. I'll bet you don't skip dialogue. I get what he means with this one, but I'm not sure he explains it too well. I'm not convinced any voracious reader purposely skips passages. I guess what he means above all else is to be terse in your writing. Leave out the boring stuff, the drawn out sentences, the unnecessarily long paragraphs and thick descriptions. Elmore Leonard was nothing if not a believer in punchy, fast-paced prose. So there we have it. I hope that this advice from Elmore Leonard will quite simply help you to become a better and more economical writer, allowing you to hone your process and find your writing voice, one that is uniquely and unmistakably yours. If you liked this video, please hit the subscribe button so as not to miss any further content from A Real Lowlife, where we look to showcase writing advice, tips and guidance from some of the greatest, most respected and most famous writers the world has ever seen, from those who have actually been there and done it. That's all for now.